Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. I'll tell you, it's funny. Thursdays are great. I wait all week for Thursday nights, and they seem to go by so fast. I got to talk baseball at 8 o'clock. You are officially on the clock with OA, the other angle. RC, what's up, brother? How you doing?
Hey, I'm good, brother. We both double dip on Thursday nights. I've already talked for about 2.5 hours, but I'm ready to go for another hour and a half. Friday, I don't have a show. Thank the good Lord. I let the voice rest on Friday.
The UFC, you're not doing the UFC this week? Is it this week?
Yeah, there's no UFC this week. So Friday night. So Friday, and you do enough of it too.
Oh yeah.
The voice will get a little rusty on you after a few days. So
yeah,
I've done a lot the last 2 weeks, and I'm probably going to shut it down and just scream at my kid the rest of the weekend.
Got to keep practice, right?
That's it.
So let's jump right into it. This show's great because we can kind of talk about whatever and go whatever direction we want. A couple big things happened these past couple days. I know we keep saying every week we want to try and get away from football, right? But there was a pretty big trade today, and
Huge.
There was some. I got to tell you, Randall, before we get into the Wentz trade, you know how I felt about Ben Roethlisberger and his future with the Steelers up to this point, right?
Right.
I was pretty secure in the fact that he was going to be back.
Right.
What I heard yesterday from Kevin Colbert has me feeling the exact opposite, brother. Did you hear that interview or that blurb?
I did not. I've read a little bit of it. I have not really heard the texture of it, but the tone to me sounded like there's a real possibility that Ben could be gone from Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
which is shocking to me.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where, I did my commemorative jersey tonight, so for me, I've all but I consider him gone. And it's not from a perspective of, of course they have salary cap problems. They've got, they're trying to keep a pretty young core intact. Yeah. And they're having to make some really tough decisions. So, when it comes down to it, just based off of what Colbert said yesterday, as of right now, to me, that means he's gone. Yeah, and it could be happening as soon as this week, Randall. I mean, here's the thing. With the Wentz trade, that signifies something big to me. There's 2 quarterbacks left that you can acquire. Mitchell Trubisky and Sam Darnold.
Right.
So if you're the Steelers and you're not intent on taking Ben Roethlisberger into the 2021 season, they don't really have the kind of draft capital that they can move up and get a Mac Jones-type quarterback. You better not hesitate at this point.
No, if you get a chance at one of those 2 guys, you've got to take it. And the thing about it, I think for the Steelers, one thing, the Wentz trade does set a little bit of a lower bar for the equity that it takes to pick up that quarterback.
Yeah,
I am convinced, and I've been convinced, the Rams overpaid for Stafford, who I think
no doubt about it
will be an all-pro quarterback.
Absolutely.
Not maybe the first team, but he'll be one of those Pro Bowl type quarterbacks.
He'll be in the running.
Yeah, and Wentz. To me, Wentz is a better quarterback age-wise than Stafford. And if you're the Colts and you just got a franchise quarterback for a second, I think it was the 3rd this year,
right,
and a conditional 1st or 2nd. So right. you want it to cost you a 3rd and a 1st.
Right.
That's a little clearer market. And I think that's a market maybe the Steelers – I mean,
are in the market for.
Yeah, I could see the Steelers paying that. The 3 number ones was just too much for me.
Yes. So my question to you, is Sam Darnold more or less than Carson Wentz?
In my opinion, he's less.
Okay.
But I think, in my opinion also, I think Sam Darnold has more of an upside than Carson Wentz.
Yes.
I know what Carson Wentz is, and I think he can be a pretty good football player.
especially
And
in an offense.
yeah, he's got everything he needs to succeed in Indy, and that offense better fits him better than the read option pass that Philly wanted to do. I think of Wentz as being a more of a pure pocket quarterback, and I think that offense he'll succeed in it. I still think Darnold has top five. Let me scratch it. Top 10 potential year in
I
and
think you're
year
accurate.
out.
I'm with you. I think he's tough. He's been given a bad rap.
He has.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, finish.
No, but I mean, if you can get Darnold right now, it's kind of like the old thing. I'm doing a lot of Bitcoin buying and selling lately. So Darnold is the off-brand Bitcoin that you hope that's going to go up to $50,000. To me, the Rams already paid $50,000 for Matthew Stafford. So I think Darnold would be a very viable option. I don't know if they have enough capital to. I know the Falcons are looking for a trade partner, but you're talking about the Steelers moving up like 16 spots.
Yeah,
that's an expensive move.
Even if QB4 drops to say, I look. That's what I did today. Is I just looked at mock drafts. So even if that fourth QB drops to pick 19, them moving up whatever it is, 6 or 7 or 8 picks to get that, it's going to be tough for them.
It's going to be. It's going to be because there's plenty of dance partners like the Falcons. There at 4. I think they could probably only move maybe to 8 and get a dance partner, and probably come out with a second and a first for it. The Falcons moved, I think it was 16 or 17 spots for Julio, and it was a king's ransom. Yes. I mean, it was 4 picks and 2 number ones.
Yeah.
That's a lot of draft capital.
The further you move up, the more you're going to pay. Absolutely. So you're saying you think value-wise, draft capital-wise, that Darnold is going to cost less than Wentz, but has the potential to be more.
Yes, I really believe that Darnold has been Adam Gase. Mm-hmm. And we've kind of had this talk offline. You know, Ryan Tannehill is a very good, and I'm not a Titans fan. I'm here. I see him every week. Ryan Tannehill is a very, very good professional, and that's the term I would use with Ryan Tannehill. He is a professional quarterback. And, you know, under Adam Gase, he looked horrible.
Yeah.
He was washed up. I mean, the Titans got him off the scrap heap. So, Darnold is, 26, 27 years old, 25?
Yeah, maybe. I think 25.
I would think.
He's young. He's young because he was the youngest QB coming out of that class.
Yeah, I mean, I still got hope for Darnold. I've said it all along.
Okay, so I'm with you. I'm totally with you. But I'm trying to iron this out. I'm sorry. I'm looking up Darnold's age. Darnold is 20. 20. That's not right. 23 years old.
23 years old. Yeah, that's incredible.
That's crazy.
He is a year younger
he's a rookie.
Than Joe Burrow.
Yeah, he's a rookie. He's just a rookie that's played in the NFL for 3 years.
Yeah.
All right. So we're both in on Sam Darnold, and especially at that price point. How about the other guy, Mitchell Trubisky?
Whew. Trubisky, I believe, has had a better offense to play in and has underperformed. Trubisky, to me, I have serious concerns about his NFL ability to read defense. In college, he was Mitchell Trubisky. He could throw the ball. He could, a lot of times 2 reads is all he needed. I've seen Mitchell Trubisky struggle when he's had complicated defenses. So I have some I have more concern about Trubisky because I feel like I got a fuller picture of Trubisky. Well, I still feel like we don't have a picture of Darnold at all. And if the Jets are moving, if the Jets are drafting a quarterback, which I've heard yes and no,
I don't know why you wasn't there.
I think they're probably in the move, the market to move. Trubisky, he's got all the talent in the world, but I just think he's had a better surrounding and done less with it than Darnold.
I got to tell you. So first off, I'm on Football Reference, and I don't know if you've ever really delved into that. They kind of put weird stuff on there sometime. Did you know Mitchell Trubisky's nickname, according to Pro Football Reference, is Mr. Biscuit?
No.
I don't know if that's like Wikipedia. I don't think it is. I think they control who puts that on
hilarious.
So I'm with you. I mean, I think Trubisky is definitely not the player that not the potential that Darnold is. Right? He'll never live up to being chosen above Pat Mahomes. This is something we can pretty much guarantee. Right?
Yeah, and Trubisky truly only had one great year at North Carolina.
Right.
It's not like Trubisky had Pat Mahomes did it over multiple years at Texas Tech.
Right.
Trubisky had a great year at North Carolina and basically parlayed that into the first overall pick.
So here's my take on Trubisky. If Trubisky can find an offense suited to him, I look at him like Josh Allen. In a way, don't hear me out. Yeah. I'm not saying he's the same caliber of player. He's not. But if you get him in a system that lets him – remember, he's a good runner.
Yeah.
If you can get him outside of the pocket and you can let him make reads, run past reads, he can be explosive and dynamic. What Mitchell Trubisky needs to find is an offensive system that's going to let him be that Lamar Jackson type player. I got a perfect fit. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
San Francisco.
Hey, Kyle Shanahan is an offensive genius. I mean, I got 4 years of up close seeing him every year. Yeah, he's the one guy that you give a quarterback, and let's face it, he got an MVP year out of Matt Ryan. And there's nothing against Matt Ryan. I love Matt Ryan. Probably the greatest quarterback in the Falcons franchise. And I know that makes the Michael Vick fans mad.
Right.
It's not even a comparison.
Right.
But I mean, he's not
pure statistics wise you're talking.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, the popularity of Michael Vick in Atlanta is on a level that no one can understand.
Right.
And two, Vick was a different kind of quarterback. You know,
he was new. It was not. It was shiny, right? It was something that we hadn't seen yet.
Well, and
barring
Lamar Jackson now, but you know, Matt Ryan.
I was talking like Randall Cunningham. That's what I was talking. I was back, right? People hadn't seen what Vick had done.
Yeah. Well, and Matt Ryan is one MVP, the only one in Atlanta history. Took the team to the Super Bowl, up 28-3. He accomplished more than Vick, I guess, is my point.
Right.
And he did that mainly under Shanahan. I mean, he was a different quarterback. So, yeah, I think you could tell me, and I don't know why Garoppolo don't work there. I really can't tell you, but he don't. Absolutely does not. And maybe he is the one place that Trubisky could go that it fits.
Yeah. So here's spitball. Garoppolo goes back to New England. Trubisky goes to San Francisco. Darnold comes to Pittsburgh.
And Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, whoever he wants. they want goes to New York.
Absolutely. You basically get anyone you want not named Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talent in this draft at the quarterback position.
Yes, even into the second round.
You have a new coach, an ownership that's newly involved, right?
Right.
You would think they want to start fresh and build their own cake, if you will.
Right. And Ben was part of that legendary draft too. I mean, I think that draft is underrated.
Totally.
Roethlisberger, Rivers, and Eli.
Yeah.
And Matt Schaub, who was a very serviceable quarterback for many years in the NFL. That's it tears at my heart to see that class moving on. And I really thought Eli was done when he was done. I think Phillip Rivers is done now. I kind of feel like Ben still got another year or two.
I know.
If they can work out a deal. But it doesn't sound like it's very promising.
At this point, I would be shocked. I would be absolutely shocked. The Steelers don't operate like that. You're in or you're out. It's purely a business decision. And they're not in the business of 38-year-old quarterbacks.
And I read an article today. If cut, would Ben play again?
And that's the heartbreaker. That's the part that's hard to swallow for me as a lifelong Steeler fan. Seeing him in another uniform is heartbreaking.
I'm going to pitch one at you that would fit. I'm going to throw to you what happened in Tampa versus what happens in Las Vegas. You move Ben Roethlisberger to Las Vegas. How legit does that team become overnight?
Well, I tell you, it's funny. So I was wanting to talk about Juju, right? And they're talking about him going to Las Vegas. That changes things, right? I'll tell you, I haven't even put any thought into 7 playing anywhere else.
Yeah, it would be. I'm not a Steelers fan, but as a Steelers fan, it would. I had these emotions when Hank Aaron went to Milwaukee, even though he had been there before the Braves. But I can, in football wise, seeing Deion Sanders the first time in a 49ers uniform was tough for me because as bad as our team was in Atlanta, we had Deion.
Right.
And Deion was the franchise.
Right.
And in many ways, I know Ben's not been the franchise, but he might have been the face of the last 20 years,
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And it's one of those things where throughout the league, he's been kind of, known as whatever, the narrative. But he's always he is the epitome of a Pittsburgh Steeler. He's the guy that'll play on a broken ankle. I remember one year he finished, they're playing Cleveland. I think they broke his ribs in the second quarter, finished the game on broken ribs. I mean, who does that? He does this time after time after time. That is what is a Pittsburgh Steeler is. I get the business decision. I get that by cutting him, you can then afford to keep a Stephon Tuitt. You can then afford to keep a Craig Hayward. You could keep Joe. You can do so many other things. Maybe Dupree comes back. There's so many other things that opens up by doing that. But what are you bringing in contract-wise? And does it make sense? Ben's talking about playing for under $20 million.
Yeah.
I don't know what Darnold's making. I'd venture to say it's more than that.
I'll throw one name at the Steeler Nation that could probably come in, and it would be such an unpopular move, but he's played at a high level for a long time that he's probably the best quarterback out there past those two we talked about, which is Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I knew you were going to say that.
I mean,
that's not going to happen.
I mean, is he not quarterback maybe 35 in the NFL?
That's not going to happen.
I would see it happening before I saw Mason Randolph as a starter.
See, I don't.
Really?
I don't. Yeah, they'll go with Mason before they go. Actually, they'll go with Dobbs, the Tennessee kid. So they really like Dobbs. I can't see that happening though, Randall. I can't see that happening. They have to make a move. If they're not comfortable with Ben next year, they have to make a move, and it has to be Darnold. I don't see any other scenario that makes sense if you're the Rooney family, if you're Colbert, you know.
To go back to Dobbs for a second. Now that's a kid that I'm going to tell you. When I make my list of Tennessee players, Josh Dobbs makes my list.
Yeah.
And I think they sent him to Jacksonville to give him a chance to be a starter.
Yes.
And it just didn't work down there.
They never really gave him a chance. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I think if he'd have been in Pittsburgh the year that Ben got hurt and Randolph got hurt,
no doubt,
you might have saw it. The one thing you don't have to worry about Joshua Dobbs is he is maybe the most intelligent football player on anybody's team.
Yeah.
I do see that you could go into the year and maybe let those two compete, but you're not looking at a playoff run type year. I don't think. I think it would be a. And do you really want to go dig a Jameis Winston off a scrap heap somewhere? I don't see it. I just really don't.
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Tony. Appreciate you, brother.
That's funny.
Now, you know, it's one of those things, though, Randall, where I don't see the Steelers going into the season without making a major move. If they're not comfortable with Ben, they have to move on this, and I just don't think he fits. Well, you know, you look at what the Steelers want to do. They've got Claypool for a reason. They've got Johnson for a reason. They want to get those guys the ball quickly. That's not a good spot for Trubisky. It is for Darnold.
Yeah. Hey, you know, and I know Atlanta has tried to move Matt Ryan, but they can't for the same reason that you cannot move Ben Roethlisberger. If they trade him, a $36 million tag comes with him. You know,
right.
You just can't move these guys.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, let's pivot. That's, you know, I'm off my soapbox there. I would guess 2 weeks Ben's out because I think his cap hits like March 15th.
And I'm more and more convinced that I'm going to end up with a quarterback at 4 in Atlanta, and we're going to have Matt Ryan and somebody riding the bench for the year, which I absolutely don't know how I feel about it.
It's a lot.
I mean, you're basically cashing in your franchise and
getting nothing out of it.
Yeah, you know, Matt Ryan's over.
It's like driving an old jalopy off a cliff, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with Ben.
Same
thing.
And both have really done a lot for those franchises.
No doubt about it. So.
Notice
all right, man.
I didn't bring up Andy Dalton. I knew that would cause you a stroke. So,
anyway. so I got to be honest with you. I had an hour to get through a boatload of baseball stuff.
Let's go.
I didn't get through all of it. So I was talking about corner infield.
Yep.
I got through my first tiers, but I really, you know, who are some? So, do you agree with me? Is the first base position deeper than maybe it's been given credit for?
I think so too. I've done some mocks and sent them to you, and I find myself, you know, in years past, I would go first base because that's a position that you can't afford. You can't afford to take a donut there. But the more and more I've mock draft, I'm finding guys deep into the 7th, 8th round that, I mean,
deeper.
I mean, I went the other night and ended up with Pete Alonso. You know, I was like 9 rounds in, you know.
Yeah.
I sent you one the other night, which was a Yahoo that I ended up with like 4 first basemen, and I was like, I don't even know who I'll play. Goldschmidt in the 6th round, 7th round, you know. So yeah, to me it's a value position.
So looking at this, so I would say Fantasy Pros does a really nice mock up there. They have an average that Yahoo, RT Sports, NFBC, and they average them together. So of this, so say from just according to Fantasy Pros, I'm going to give you these second 12 first basemen. Tell me who sticks out to you. Tell me who you like the most out of this group. Give me a couple. Rizzo, 98.5 is the 12th first baseman. Bohm, 108. Dom Smith, 108. I'm not going to give you Yasmani Grandal. He's a catcher. Mike Moustakas, 123. Will Myers, 133. Eric Hosmer, 148. Ryan Mountcastle, 150. Josh Bell, 158. Rhys Hoskins, 164. Who do you like out of that group?
I love Josh Bell. I just really – I think he was a guy that got caught in a situation he maybe underperformed a little bit. I've still got Josh Bell 2019 in my head. Also,
first half.
Yeah, great. He was and 2020 is almost a wash to me. So really, he had a bad half of year in 2019, but I also had a great half a year in 2019. So Josh Bell is somebody I like. Will Myers, I was shocked to see in a little trivia the other day that he has like the second or third most RBIs at the first base in the last decade. You don't think about it. He's a guy that's in a great lineup. And I think his value is overstated because of the lineup he's in. And I love what the Orioles are doing. And I think that kid has potential. But my first one, I guess Bell, Montcastle, maybe Myers would be my three out of that.
Yeah. I'm not a big Myers fan, but the other two definitely. Mountcastle's one of those guys that we still don't know his full ability, right?
Right.
He came up last year. He's one of those guys that he's easy to cheer for. He hustles on and off the field. He showed good bat to ball skills. I don't think we'll ever hit for high power, but I think he's a high average guy, and I think he profiles more as as even with a high average as a RBI as opposed to a runs guy. I think he hits 5-6 in that lineup when they're full what they want them to be, right?
Right.
But to me, this is a guy that if you have to go out and take a chance on a low average guy, this is a perfect guy to go out and grab. And especially, again, where you can get him, you're looking at what, the 15th round-ish?
Yeah.
At ADP 150, that's a really good value. But again, to your point, even more so than that, the Josh Bell thing at 158, to me, it's a mistake, is what it is. So you've played on bad teams before, right? I mean, that's draining.
Yeah.
Going to the park and knowing that you have no chance to win, it really is hard on a player's morale. And if you look at what he did, now I said this at 8 o'clock. You look at what he did the first half versus the second half of the year in 2019. People don't think about it from the perspective of the Pirates were competing in the first half of 2019. Randall, did you get 84 RBIs in the first half of that year?
That's incredible.
He had 27 homers.
I know at the All-Star break, he was kind of an outlier to the MVP race. I mean, he was that
totally
good.
was. He totally was. So one more. He's a career 261 hitter. He hit 226 last year. Did he maybe mail it in a little bit?
Maybe.
This team stinks. Why should I,
Yeah.
Is that a bad thing?
It's hard on being the best player on a bad team or we do a thing on our other show, on the D Swain show. We pick a bad team that we've never rooted for, and we root for that team.
Yeah.
So last year I had the Pirates, and because I'm a Braves fan. So this year I've got the Baltimore Orioles. And watching the Pirates last year, if he wasn't the only guy that mailed it in, if he's guilty of it, they were a lot of it. And the one guy, before I forget about it, I love that you brought up, but I don't see him as a first baseman, is Brandon Lowe. He just don't fit that. He's really, in my head, a second baseman, and a kind of, in fantasy, he's eligible other spots that I think his bat
his profile fits at second base, right? Yeah. Same thing I said about DJ LeMahieu earlier. It's the same thing. He's eligible at first base, but really, if you're going to draft DJ LeMahieu at 26.2, you're going to put him at second base.
Yeah, I mean, you're just not. Even Will Meyer, I think he's more of an outfielder.
Yeah. But it's good to have that versatility is a bonus.
It is. It is.
Especially in leagues like we play in that are head-to-head, daily changes. That's a good thing to have. So you want to hear Bell's stat line from the first half of 2019?
Yeah, hit me with it.
88 games, 338 at-bats. He hit 302 with 27 homers, 69 runs, and 84 RBIs. You're goddamn right he was in the MVP discussion. Pardon my language.
That's a hell of a half a year right there.
Whew. So his second half. 233. 10 homers, 32 RBIs. Not so good.
Well, and the lineup he is in, I think underperformed last year too. So, if you put that bat in the middle of that lineup with Turner, it's a pretty good lineup still. I mean, that lineup can be potent. Listen, and in that division, you've got to be.
Juan Soto is the most underrated player in the game. I heard a comparison today, and I don't have the stats in front of me. I just heard it as I was working. They compared him. Actually, I can get it because I don't want to mess this up. They compared him to none other than Barry Bonds. He had 12 intentional walks last year in 60 games.
Kind of incredible.
His strikeout rate didn't go up. To me, as a 21, 22-year-old now.
Yeah.
Juan Soto can make an argument for being the first overall pick.
Sure can. Matter of fact, my personal rankings have him in the top 3. No lower.
Yeah. The only thing that takes away from Soto being at that level is that he doesn't steal bases. But he's going to hit for average. He's going to score. Especially with Schwarber and Bell behind him now, he's going to score a lot more runs in that offense.
Right.
If Robles gets his act together, that could be a really potent offense.
That division could be so good. You got to wait and see how it plays out. But the Mets have sold the farm to be there. The Nationals, to me, still have maybe the most talent. And the Braves are the defending champion. So, wow, that could be a special division race.
I'll tell you, I mean, the one that's interesting to me, because I don't think they're done yet, is the Mets. I feel like if the Mets go out and get another starter, they could be really dangerous. If they go out and get Odorizzi, if they go out and get Taijuan Walker, they're starting to build depth that mimics the Dodgers and the Padres. They're built for the long run.
Right.
The suddenly overflowing pockets in Flushing, I'd be concerned as a Braves fan.
Yep. I'm concerned as it is. I still don't think we've made the moves. I don't have us winning the division. So, I mean, that's a Braves fan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think, part of that's kind of twofold too, right? Part of it, you want to see what your prospects do.
Right.
Why spend if you have these prospects that are – but on the other end, you've seen your prospects. You know what they are. You know what they're not. We've talked about Christian Pache. Confidence level in Christian Pache coming up and hitting 280, 20, and 20.
Not good.
Right. We know Ian Anderson had a good year last year. Kyle Wright's capable.
Right.
Your confidence level in a guy like Tuki Toussaint?
None. And it may end up in a pen. It may find himself in the pen.
Bryce Wilson.
Higher than Tukey, but no better than a fifth starter. Even though he had the one great playoff game, Bryce has never been the profile of that front line starter. And the Braves are kind of in a holding pattern right now.
Yeah.
Chappy,
and they have to be.
Yeah, and I mean, there's not a lot left in the minors we haven't seen. A couple of catchers, maybe a shortstop of the future, but those minor leagues have been pretty drained over the last 5 years.
I'll tell you, and I know we've talked about this. The guy that I don't think gets enough credit. You know I'm a William Contreras fan.
Right.
I'm not going to talk about him. I want to talk about Shea Langoliers. I think this is a guy who has Otley Rutschman type skills.
Yeah.
I haven't heard many people give that amount of credit to him.
No.
I've done it consistently, and you know this, for the last year. Talk to me about what you're hearing about Langoliers.
I think Atlanta likes his bat more than everybody. I think since draft day, Atlanta liked his bat more than everybody else. He came from day one. He is the ultimate defensive catcher. His defensive skills a pure catcher. Great pop. Throw rate is just incredible. In college, he was called, he was impossible still on.
Yeah.
But his knack, his reputation in the draft was, he's going to hit okay, but he's never. I don't think Atlanta expects him to hit okay. I think Atlanta expects him to be a B-plus hitter.
Middle of the lineup.
Yeah, I think that Atlanta expects him to be Travis Darnot the next 10 years, hit fifth, hit sixth, catch
25, 30 homers.
Yeah, catch 125 games, You don't spend that kind of draft capital unless you expect that in return.
The biggest compliment I think I've heard about Shea Langoliers, he's like a coach on the field.
Yeah.
And, that's one thing when you're a Benji Molina or a really good defensive catcher. I think you and I both know there's more there than that.
Yeah,
And it's quite a conundrum too, though, because again, William Contreras, we're talking about Wilson Contreras' little brother.
a great
And I know that
prospect.
doesn't always translate, right?
Right.
I think here it does.
I think the Braves was. I think Langoliers just blew them away.
Yeah.
I think they were comfortable with Contreras as their catcher of the future.
Yep.
And they just saw a generational talent. And
that was being overlooked by another generational talent.
Right. And, you're going to see, and I don't think it's long. I mean, I think one more year's in the minor.
This time next year.
Yeah, we'll be expecting it, So, I know they've even played him in the outfield a little bit at Rome. I mean, talked about just so they could get. So I think there's a value to having him be able to play a little outfield. One, it saves you a position player. And two, he's still primarily a catcher, but you might be able to steal 5 games out of him and get his back to the lineup without.
Rest his knees.
Yeah, rest his knees. Still 10 games.
Yeah.
Johnny Bench played a little first base during his career. That's still a game here and there for Johnny Bench. So it's okay.
No, I think it's, it just goes to show his athleticism, right?
Right.
I feel like, so my take on that whole situation is this time next year, William Contreras is with another organization. And Shea Langoliers has played in Major League Baseball.
And that's the one resource the Braves does have that I think could bring back a major league quality arm tomorrow. So we'll see. Yeah. I do, the Braves made a minor move with Knips the other day, and I think he could end up making the team. I don't know what their plans are. Adam Duvall signed with the Marlins, so I thought they thought about bringing him back. I just really like Washington, Chappy. Really, Washington, while New York did it splashy, I think Washington did it quiet and really put some pieces together that weren't frontline pieces like Bell. I mean, Bell went under the radar.
Totally.
But
Schwarber.
Yeah. I know Lindor was the big splash in New York, but if I tell you that Bell has a better year coming, I'm not shocked.
No. And that's the thing. Like, to me, you put him and Schwarber back to back.
Yeah.
And you put them right behind Soto. Bell's a switch hitter. Schwarber is a lefty. That makes you matchup proof.
It does.
Because, Schwarber might struggle a little bit against left-handed pitchers. But Soto's going to hit both sides of the plate.
Yeah.
To me, pairing those two up and then putting Castro right behind. Castro was out of place as a 5-hitter.
He was.
He's probably still out of place as a 6-hitter.
Yeah.
But that's why Robles is so key. If Robles comes through and can push everybody back a spot, that changes the whole game.
And I almost feel the same way about the Braves, where you can move Acuna out of 1 and move him down in the order, but they just had no solution last year.
Yeah.
Other than Acuna at 1. And again, it's the same guys. It's Pash, it's Incarnate. I just don't see enough that you can move Acuna down to push. Last year we had Travis hitting 5th. And I don't think he's a 5-hitter at times. He's a good hitting catcher, but is he truly a 5-hitter? I don't know.
Let me give you a name who's still available. Does a 30-year-old Jackie Bradley Jr. do anything for you?
It does, and I don't understand how he's still out there, Chappy.
Yeah.
It racks my brain how he's still out there. It really does.
But the fact that he's out there means that he's affordable.
Yeah.
Which makes him even more appealing, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking about when you bring on a Jackie Bradley Jr., you're talking about maybe the second or third best defensive center fielder in the game.
Yeah.
You take a lot of pressure off of Acuna. You move him over to a corner outfield spot, whichever one you choose. You put him at the top of the lineup. He hit 283 last year. You put him at the top of the lineup. You let him man center field every day. You say, Jackie, don't worry about competition. That spot's yours. You can hit Albie second. You can hit Acuna third. Ozuna fourth. Right on down the line. Riley slots into place.
Yep. It's a different team. They've got to get some.
Totally.
I really feel there's an arm need and a true leadoff hitter need in Atlanta. And that's not a question in Washington and New York. That is not a question who leads off.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I know we were on corner infielders, but I'll go on my rant for just a second. And I'm not the baseball guy I used to be, but I can tell you, I've always thought, you show me a good team, I'm going to show you a team that's got a good leadoff hitter. You show me a good team, I'm going to show you a guy that's got a good two-hole hitter. That top of the order has got to be able to set that lineup up. And right now, Atlanta has a couple of pieces doing it that could be more valuable other places.
So that you brought it up. I'll talk about it. The two-hole, that's changed a lot in the last 15 years. So Juan Soto to me makes a whole lot of sense at two, just because he knows how to work the count. He's not afraid to take a walk. He can hit for power on a dime. Is Juan Soto the perfect two-hitter in this day and age?
He may very well be. And he's got speed. But he's not a huge base stealer, but he can,
right.
He can run the pads, and you look at Atlanta, they use Albies.
Another perfect example. Example.
The two-hitter in my era, I'm a little older than you, Chappy, but I can remember days when guys like Tommy Hurd hit two. And he hit two because he was a line drive hitter, but he was also a great bunter, in St. Louis. And really that two guy has now became – I feel like the two guy is what used to be the three guy. And everybody moved up one.
Yeah.
And now with the DH, the 9-hole guy is actually the one guy.
Yep.
And the leadoff guy is the two guy.
Right.
So we shifted the order up and down. And really in the American League, we see that even more, with those 9-hole hitters in the American League. And when you go to a minor league park, you watch the lineup come out and you just look at that scoreboard. You watch who they have hitting ninth in those lineups. It's not a guy hitting 225 anymore.
Right.
It's a guy hitting 280 that can burn the speed. Yeah, it turns that lineup. So it feels like everything's shifted up one to me.
So let's talk about this real quick. So on base percentage, I looked this up. Last year, on base percentage leaders, Soto was number one. 490 on base percentage. I'll say that again. Juan Soto got on base almost half the time he got up to the plate. 490. Freddie Freeman was second at 462. And Ozuna was third at 431. You're talking about a 60-point difference. Freddie Freeman had a great year between first and third. That's significant.
Yeah, that's And Freddie's second and third or second looked a lot different than Soto's first too. Freddie is the guy, and I'm the world's biggest Freddie fan.
Yep.
But Freddie he don't get on base a lot with his legs.
Right.
I mean, Freddie cannot create with what Soto does.
Right.
And I've seen the one thing that I really appreciate about Soto's game is it seems like he's kind of that old school power to the gap guy.
Yeah.
That you don't see in today's game as much. And he's also a guy that, I mean, he seems like he'll go with the ball, So, yeah, I love Soto.
It's a great point. So again, back to the comparison with Bonds, and I know that sounds crazy, right? I mean, I think I called into your guys' show the other night and talked about Bonds being the best baseball player of all time.
Yeah.
When you compare what Bonds was during his last 5 years in the league versus what Soto is right now, obviously the power is different, but you're absolutely right. The difference to me is, whereas Bonds was a Deadpool hitter, he knew what he wanted, he knew what he could do with it. Soto will take it wherever you put it with him. He will put it down any line because he can.
Yeah.
But the other part, I think that we overlook. Again, we're people talk about Vlad being so young. Soto's 22 years old.
Don't seem possible, does it?
It seems like he's been up forever, because he has. So intentional bases on balls. A 22-year-old we're talking about here. Number 2 in the league last year, Bryce Harper. He had 8. Number 3, Freddie Freeman had 7. Cruz had 5. Alonso and a bunch of others had 4. Soto had 12, Randall. He had a quarter more than the second place hitter. As a 22-year-old.
Wow.
Just got a first overall pick.
He's there. And you said it, the only thing that hurts him in fantasy is, that Acuna goes out and steals 25 bases.
Right.
Or in Trout, he's, while older, still will steal a little more than he does. I don't know. I will say it, and we always do these shows and we're like, oh, we'll reveal what we're thinking. I put him third on my list, but I have Acuna 1. I debate it. I mean, we play dynasty leagues. Is Acuna really more valuable than Soto? I mean, and then I had a huge debate. No doubt that Trout's a generational talent, but at his age, the other two seems like a bargain, if you're going to play dynasty league baseball. Soto, again, fantasy isn't equal to who's the best baseball player, but I think Acuna probably goes first. I have a hard time telling you who goes second, but yeah, he's there.
So
it's personal taste too.
Absolutely. I say this all the time. I know you've heard me say this. It doesn't matter a flip who you prefer now.
Yeah.
What the proof is in the pudding when you do this. At the end of the year, there's going to be a number 1 fantasy player. There's going to be a number 2 all the way down. So it doesn't matter. You can be thought of as wingding at this time of the year. Are you right at the end of the year?
Right.
And to me, the thing that gets overlooked about Juan Soto he's an average. I mean, he could win a batting title. He had 351 last year.
It's incredible, isn't it?
The more research I do on this young man, the more I'm enamored with him. I don't know that I'd put him 1. I might. He's definitely top 2. I think there's a clear tier. We talk about tiers. I think there's a clear tier in fantasy baseball this year, and it's Acuna and Soto and everybody else.
Yeah, I would be happy if we come out of our draft with either one of them.
Right.
And and maybe as a position, there's a lot of talk about Tatis, but I want Soto or Acuna in my league.
There's just so many shortstops.
Yeah,
it's so funny because you really have to keep that in mind when you're drafting. And obviously with Tatis, I want to see it. Give me another time through.
Mm-hmm.
I don't doubt his abilities. I don't doubt that he won't do it again. But when you're talking about a pick that high, and heck, Soto might drop down to 4 or 5.
Yeah,
that's an easy decision for me. I mean, it's one of those things. The only thing that might sway me away from a guy like Juan Soto is someone who has that, a Trey Turner type player who has that because speed's so hard to get.
yeah.
And I'm not saying Trey Turner. I'm saying that type of play. So Mookie Betts, right? Mookie Betts is another one that has to be in that discussion.
Yes.
He has to be number 3 to me.
And still, Mookie's 28, 27, so he's still got plenty of tread on the tires.
And you love him in that park. You love him in that lineup. I don't think we've seen, I don't think we've seen his best ball. 292, 16 and 10 last year. 28 years old. Again, for me, does he ever get back to the 30 that he had as a 25-year-old in 2018?
I don't know that he does.
Do you need it? Do you need it for him to be the 3rd pick?
No, in my head, you don't. Plus, that ballpark, I mean, God, Lord, he's got gaps everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think the move to Los Angeles was a good move for Mookie's career. I think
a lot of extra base hits, right?
Yeah, that ballpark was kind of built for his game. So it's amazing to me after the Red Sox trade at Andrew the other day, that outfield that we all thought would be together for 15 years is kind of not there anymore,
Well, and the crazy part to me is they're still, I think, the 4th highest spending team in the majors.
I know.
What are you doing, Boston?
Yeah, you're spending money, but it seems like your best player is in L.A. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. So, for me, so there for 23 through 25, he's still 26, 26, and 30. I don't think he ever gets back up to those numbers, Randall. But I could see him stealing 20.
Yeah, easy. 15, guaranteed.
I mean, especially in this offense now where you can kind of play loosey-goosey a little bit.
Yeah.
You can, you can be aggressive on the base paths.
Well, and even that stolen base category over the last decade has changed. It used to be you went and looked for that guy that can steal 35. Well, that guy that can steal 35 can also hit 35 now.
Right.
10 years ago, that guy that could steal 35 hit 5. He looked more traditional leadoff that we were talking about that's kind of gone away,
Yeah. The other part of it, Randall, for me is where he hits in the lineup and in direct response to the other MVP in that outfield. You're not going to steal Mookie Betts when he's standing on first base and Cody Bellinger's at the plate, and all they're going to do is walk him because he's on fire. You're not going to do that. So it almost makes sense where you put a player between them. so that you have that opportunity where you don't have that intentional walk. I feel like that's kind of a problem, perhaps, for Betts.
Correct.
If he's sitting right in front of Bellinger, you're just not going to take off that much.
I never had thought of that, but that's a pretty good thought, to be honest.
I've grown up around baseball, brother. My dad was a coach, so it's fun to think about that philosophy type stuff, but it is impactful. Now, again, if he hits 346, it doesn't matter, right?
Don't.
But if he hits 290, it matters.
Yep. Do you really think in that ballpark though? What's his? We always talk about floors and ceilings,
right?
I think he's got a pretty high floor in Dodger Stadium.
Absolutely. I mean, so he's never hit below. Wait, 1 year he hit 264. Aside from that, he's never hit below 290. He's a career 301 hitter. I just can't see him hitting below 320 in that lineup. He might not get 30 homers, but he might get 45 doubles.
Yeah.
He might score 120 runs. I feel like those are reasonable asks out of him. He's another one of those guys. He's really poised as a batter.
Absolutely. And just I was looking at his projections for steals. They had him at 18. I think that's reasonable. Yeah.
I mean, if you're taking Mookie Betts at number 3, I'd say that's the threshold of where you're happy. If he gets below 18, you're not pleased. He better put up really good average and run numbers. Because runs is a thing. Runs are a lot like stolen bases. They're hard to come by.
Correct.
So if he gives you 120 runs, you can live with 15 stolen bases. Because it doesn't happen that often.
So I'll give you one Mookie before we jump off of Mookie Betts.
Yeah.
He's a local kid.
Okay.
He's he grew up about 95 miles from here. He's a Nashville kid. Do you know that he was also the state bowling champion when he was in high school?
I did not.
He is it just goes to show you those guys are just great athletes. But I've been watching Mookie Betts now I actually got to see him play once in high school, and I just feel like his best baseball's in front of us.
Yeah. I tell you, I did not know that, but I'll tell you what that tells me. I don't think bowling gets enough credit for being a cerebral game, right? You're trying to spin a ball down a lane full of wax in a way that it hits a pocket just right to knock all the – because you can't hit the pocket straight on, right? You have to put that spin on. So that tells me a lot in terms of, getting jumps on flat balls, getting jumps in the base paths, understanding what maybe a spin on a pitch is going to do coming off of your bat. It's kind of cool to think of it like that.
Hey,
because if you ask your novice fan, is bowling a thinking game? No, you're crazy. I go and drink beer with my buddies, right?
Right.
But think about it. To throw a repeatable strike, you really have to hit that pocket, right?
Yeah, I mean he threw 290 in competition in high school. So
yeah,
I mean he's elite.
That's
elite.
Good. That is
athlete.
Really good.
And I know I think he committed to the University of Tennessee at one point, but we all knew when he committed, this kid's never going to see a collegiate baseball field. So, it's nice to see It's nice to see, even though it tore my heart out last year in the playoffs. It was nice to see Mookie get his world championship too. It was a kid I
He's a
root
likable
for.
guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Got his money. From everything I know, he's a great kid. He's took care of his family. There's nothing you can say that's bad about a kid that's done that.
Yeah. So let's talk about a couple more corners. We got about 25 more minutes.
All right. We haven't even got to third yet.
Okay. Hit taken.
No, I don't know as much about third. So when you get there, you're probably on your own.
No, I'll tell you. I'll start with the sweet spot because I already talked about Cabrian Hayes. I haven't talked about Justin Turner a whole lot, but one guy I do want to talk about. What are your thoughts on Austin Riley?
As a Braves fan, I've struggled with Austin, and I don't think our parent club has done a very good job managing Austin through a tough time, and I'm afraid. I think if they put Austin Riley at third and left him alone and say, go play 140 games and figure it out, you might see a different player. But, when you're fighting for your life over there, you're in the outfield, you're in the infield, you sit on the dugout and you watch Johan Camara play third, and I think he's just a little shaken. And the thing coming up, Chappy, that always impressed me was Austin Riley's contact ability. And now it seems like that's even a little shaken. So I hope he gets it figured out. I think if he gets it figured out, you could see a very high-level third baseman in Austin Riley. But I think we need to help him a little bit as an organization. Trust him.
I don't know where to start with this. Austin Riley, to me, I agree with a lot of what you said. Austin Riley, to me, and I've been wrong before, I can handle being wrong, is one of the breakout candidates in the major leagues this year. I agree. He needs to play third base every day.
Yeah.
Or put him in left field. I mean, do one or the other. Put him in a position, let him get comfortable there.
Yeah.
The thing about Riley, I can live with the average. I can live with 239 for the rest of his career. 8 homers projects out to approximately 35 homers. I'm trying to pull it up quickly, but it never works when you want it to. You can live with that.
Yep.
If he's doing the other things, right? So projected out 26 homers.
Okay.
51 walks, 156 strikeouts. That's not good.
Yeah, that is the issue with the organization in Atlanta, and that's a lot of strikeouts.
Yeah. But here's why I'm still very much encouraged in what Austin Riley's doing. 82nd percentile exit velocity. 71st percentile X slug. It's one of those things where I think we all know that this guy's every bit as capable of hitting 40 home runs as anyone else.
And the ball has a different sound off his bat. It is.
Oh, no doubt.
It is real.
And a different feel. It looks different going off his bat.
Yeah.
So I'll say this. So he jumped from 226 to to 239. That's a step forward.
It was.
In 2019, in 274 plate appearances, he had 108 strikeouts and 16 walks. In 2020, in 188 plate appearances, he had 49 strikeouts and 16 walks. Same amount of walks, 90 less games, half the strikeouts. Half the strikeouts, Randall. That, to me, is an indicator.
Yeah.
It's not a trend yet, but it could be. I need to see another year of, it's like that guy on The Price is Right going up the mountain, right?
Yeah.
I need to see another year of him going up that mountain, cutting down that strikeout rate. But I think the biggest thing is he realized that pitchers got him on a string with that slider off the plate. And he fixed that. He started to fix that last
year. It's that one pitch has been his kryptonite his whole career, though. And it seems like, I know playing a little baseball back in high school and even playing some softball, when you see that pitch on the outside, you just think you can take it the other way. And I've seen Austin Riley take some of the most vicious cut at sliders that I've ever seen taken and just come up empty. It's like,
it's really simple.
Yeah.
All he has to do is tuck his front shoulder. He fixes the problem.
And he almost flies out.
Yeah.
He swings so hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you look at when he first came up, they talked about his contact and his spin ratio and his speed off the bat, Freddie Freeman-like.
Right.
And you've got to feel that it's fixable. I told somebody recently, Freddie Freeman may get out of Atlanta and become a superstar, and we go, oh my, we had Austin Riley and we let him get away.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest fear. Just like today when I was breaking down some pitchers and I was like, that's not the same Kevin Gossman we had in Atlanta and just let walk, is it? And it is,
Yeah.
You just sometimes it just don't work. I still think the Atlanta organization wants Austin Riley to be the third baseman of the future.
Then you need to put him there because I'll tell you right now, this guy is he could be an all-star, and he doesn't have to hit 300 to do it. He can hit 270 and hit you 40 homers. You're happy with that every year.
Yeah, and and I don't even think it's. I think if he strikes out 100 times, the organization's thrilled.
Yeah,
I really think when you get up in the high 100s or mid 100s, it just becomes, it's almost a detriment to your team.
No doubt.
The latest projections I've been reading, as far as in the local papers and stuff, they have Austin in the lineup, and as the everyday third baseman,
has to
hitting seventh.
Yep.
And I think if I read one in the Atlanta paper that kind of put projections out. It had had Austin hitting, I think maybe one more home run than you just said, 29, 80 RBIs, 246. And out beside it, the writer wrote, basically, if this happens, he's the third baseman for the next decade.
Yeah.
And you can quit looking. So I really root for
I think that happens, Randall.
I do too.
Yeah.
I hope it does.
I really believe that. He's someone that I've trusted for the last 2 years, and you see glimpses of it. I think this is the year he puts it all together.
Well, and I think the Ozuna signing takes a little pressure off of that.
A lot of pressure. Yeah, a lot of
So
pressure.
I think you can now live with some Austin Riley mistakes that you couldn't without Azuna. And 23 years old, give him a chance. Let him play.
Well, and from a fantasy perspective, if you're gonna draft a guy like Riley, it never hurts to come back and draft a high average guy to complement him,
Yeah,
and that way it evens out, right?
yeah.
So,
Yeah,
go ahead.
if you can get Soda, you can afford Riley
Right?
in your
Yeah,
lineup.
yeah. So a couple other guys, and I want to jump off of here. But I think it's once you start getting down deeper, it's interesting. You got any interest in a guy like CJ Crone,
Well,
Colorado?
yeah, I do. And he's in Colorado. He's productive in LA, but I don't know that he ever had a kind of that was strange enough. I would compare it to Austin Riley in a way. I don't know if he ever felt comfortable in that I have an everyday job. I do have interest in him. And strangely, I think I have some interest in Dave Fletcher. Just because he's eligible at so many positions, you can draft him and maybe he plays your third base. Crone, though, I think he in Colorado might surprise us all.
Yeah, I mean, I really look for it's interesting though because if I might be wrong on this, I believe they went out and signed Greg Bird too. So it's kind of one of those things that that might be a friendly competition. I think they want a big power hitter there, and I think it just goes to show that maybe sooner than we think there might be some more chips moved in Colorado. Here's looking at you, Trevor Story.
Yeah.
But Crone, to me, this seems like a really good landing spot for him. And you look back at, his 19 numbers, 25 homers and 253. I don't want to get into the dead ball, whatever that, but it seems like 25 homers in Colorado seems pretty attainable for CJ Crone, even, regardless of what the ball is. So with that said, how long does he stay in Colorado?
You would hope at least a while. There's just like guys that get to bouncing around the major leagues that just never seem to find a home. And then they do find a home, and all of a sudden they're an everyday player. And and if Crone can find, and I did look up, I think you are right, they did sign Bird.
Yeah.
Colorado is not going to be a very good ball team this year.
No.
But you can still get very good fantasy statistics out of Colorado.
Exactly.
So
it's going to be interesting in DFS with those guys, right? Because those guys aren't going to be very highly priced. But when you're playing at home, I think you're going to see a big jump in those numbers.
Yeah.
But to me, I feel like Crone could be very short-lived in Colorado. If he gets off to a good start, I would imagine they'd want to ship him out pretty quickly, especially if Bird's healthy and he's actually being productive. I feel like, if you're a team like Colorado and you're building for the future, I've said this about the Cubs. Okay, you don't want to compete. That's fine. You should still, as a large market team, be out there signing these projects, the Taiwan Walkers, these guys that Aaron Sanchez hitting 98 on the freaking radar gun the other day. So, it's one of those things where if you're a large market team and you're in sell mode, you need to go out and sign these players as lottery tickets. And I think that's what Colorado is going to do with Crone. They hope he gets off to a hot start so they can ship him to a contender at a nice price to stockpile more prospects. That's how you should do it.
Well, and you've seen teams do it and come up with just magic,
Yeah.
I thought DJ LeMahieu going to the Yankees was just like a throwaway piece, and the next thing you know, man, this dude's an all-star and he's an MVP candidate, and he's hitting the middle of one of the best lineups. When that move was made, it wouldn't even blip on my radar. So
listen, that's nothing. Talk to me about Gio Urshela. Talk to me about some of these other players on that team that are just, guy after guy. The Yankees are great at doing that, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it seems like Tampa Bay goes and picks up your pitcher that's trash and makes him an all-star. And I don't know. I don't know who their pitching coach is, but he should be the highest paid pitching coach in Major League Baseball. But just seems like some organizations have a knack for that. The Braves kind of got caught up. Josh Donald at just a bargain basement.
Yeah.
Got one great year for him. He managed to turn that into a great contract. I don't know if I'm taking Josh Donaldson in the top 15 of my third base draft this year. So,
yeah, so I have him. Shoot, he's low.
Yeah, I mean, in the second year of a multi-year 9-figure
around
contract.
17. Yeah, I got him around 17. The thing about third base that I think is interesting, and you have this tier, this top tier: Machado, Arenado, Ramirez, Rendon, Bregman, and Devers. Right? Those guys are all pretty established players. That next group of players is established players, but there's a big Swiss cheese that you could throw your dart through, right?
Yeah.
Suarez, Chapman, Moncada, Bryant, Moustakas, Muncy. All those guys have a big hole in their profile fantasy-wise.
Yeah.
But then you got these next three guys, and I want to end up on this.
All right.
Three guys that I love. And I'll start from the bottom. Ryan Mountcastle, Alec Baum, and Brian Hayes. Talk to me about those, man.
Well, we've already talked about Brian Hayes, and I was like, you went back and I've watched some other people's film on Brian Hayes. He's the real deal, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The other one that I like is Alex Baum out of that. My first thought with him was, is he going to strike out too much? But he really does get a lot of bat on the ball. So I mean, he's not the player I thought he was. And I'll be honest with you, all three of those players are guys that I would have probably overlooked if not for doing this show with you. And they're guys that you've got me looking at now. Hey, and
targeting, right?
Yeah. And I'll throw Biggio on the list.
Oh, no doubt. The only reason I didn't mention him because he's not eligible at third. So if we draft tomorrow, you can't put him at third base because he hasn't played enough games there.
I know, but he might be.
But he's going to play every day at third base. You're absolutely right.
I mean, Biggio is there's problems there, and I realize that. But God, they're upside too.
Yeah.
If I'm a little upside down though, I think I probably have Braum and then Hayes. But I think I may be upside to you on it. But I've also seen lists that have them flip-flopped. And, you get your there's some guys in the middle. That's where you're going to get your Max Muncies and guys. But it's not really the guys I want at third.
Right.
I've made up my mind this year that I am going to throw. I'm either coming away with one of the top 3 or 4 third basemen, or I'm coming away with 2 third basemen I love and playing it that way. And right now I'm kind of leaning to, I think there's enough depth at third base that I can wait and I can come out with 2 people I love and just kind of put it together all year, I don't know that second and shortstop I'm as confident about doing that, especially second. I think I'm going to have a second baseman that I can just throw in there, not worry about my team. A third is a position I think you can win a league at by getting it right.
Yeah, and for me, again, the problem for me with Baum, and I say a problem, it's not a problem. It's the reason why I lean Hayes. Both of them had outstanding averages last year. I feel like bat to ball skill. Hayes he has quicker hands. He has better approach to the plate. I feel like in 2 years, Charlie Hayes, Brian Hayes, Brian Hayes could be the best third baseman in the league.
So I'm going to fire a question back at you, Chappy. The one place when I'm outlining third base, I don't want to end up in the Rodon Devers category where I spend high draft capital and come out with a guy that I am not comfortable with. And I feel like, they could have Devers could have a great year. But Devers to me and Rodon, I could also see me not being comfortable and going back and spending more draft capital. If I'm going to spend that much capital on a guy, I want to feel good. I want to feel good that I got it. I have that position nailed down. Do you agree with that or?
Totally disagree.
Really?
I love Rafael Devers. I think Devers can win a batting title. He is that talented. You're talking about a kid, Randall, at 22 years old, hit 54 doubles, led the league in doubles as a 22-year-old. Hit 311. 32 home runs as a 22-year-old, buddy. You're talking about, listen, last year the Red Sox had their share of troubles.
Right, and I think that's what's got me worried, is are they enough around him? I mean, is it going to...
To me, Rafael Devers and Xander Bogaerts are the face of the Red Sox. Okay. Those two guys are that team. Any team, I don't care who you are, you're going to suffer dramatically if you take your 1 and your 2 pitcher off the board from day one.
Yeah,
I don't care. I don't care who you are. So here's a situation where you have to take, and I've talked about this a lot, you have to take 2020 stats completely off the board for Rafael Devers. Because you don't know how much he gave you on the field because of what was going on with the pitching staff. He knew they had no chance. And all that said, he had 11 home runs last year. That projects out, Randall, to 32 home runs. 263 and 32 home runs.
Is he your tier then?
He is. I said it at 8 o'clock. I fully anticipate. So I have Bregman in the first tier as the last in the first tier. I have Devers as the first in the second tier.
Okay.
I said this time next year, I fully anticipate on flipping those two.
Okay.
I think Rafael Devers is one of the most underrated players. At 40, he could be a first-round pick next year.
You're going to make me go watch tape again, aren't you?
It's a little risky. I'm not saying it's surefire, right? But you're talking about a guy, bat-to-ball skill-wise, is elite. Now you're going to make me look up his baseball savant. He has such quick hands, and he has such an idea at the plate. I've been really impressed with Rafael Devers every time I've watched this kid play. And I feel like you can get him at a deal. Yeah, that's what I thought. You want to hear him?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Exit velocity, 96th percentile. This is last year's his down year. 96th percentile exit velocity. Barrel percentage, 80th percentile. All these are red. Hard hit percentage, 74th percentile.
That's impressive.
So you're talking about a 24-year-old kid that's putting up these kind of measured statistics. He's one of the best kept secrets in the game.
So one more guy I want to ask you about. Has Chapman fell that far down the draft list now?
Chapman's a little tougher. You know I'm a big fan, right?
I know, and I know in playing in the past, it's a guy you've targeted. And
so Chapman's in that tier. Chapman's in that second tier. I talked about it at 8 o'clock. 3 guys that I love. I didn't get to talk to him a whole lot, so thanks for teeing this up for me. The thing about Chapman, much like with Arenado, he played with a hip injury last year. For Arenado, it was his shoulder. For Chapman, he tore his labrum in his hip. That sounds painful, right?
Yeah.
And you'd think a power hitter generates a lot of power from his hips. So that said, he still was in the 99th percentile in hard hit rate. Excuse me. He was the 6th highest average exit velocity, the 99th percentile in hard hit rate. Averaged 99 miles per hour off the bat last year. With a bum hit, Randall. 112. You're talking about a 10th round pick. What do you think I think?
I think he's a guy I circled on my draft list.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're talking about pure value in this tier, so you're talking Suarez at 79, you're talking Devers at 42, and you're talking Chapman at 112. Moncada's also in there. Moncada's another one of those guys. Really undervalued.
Yeah.
ADP of 88. Said he didn't feel normal until 3 weeks after the season last year. Played the entire year, basically recovering from COVID. Said he couldn't catch his breath. He didn't have his strength.
He's the one guy that had the biggest, the draft list I use, he had the biggest spread as far as people having him at 6 to 11. I thought he was the one that, to me, had just a tremendous upside.
Oh, yeah.
And it seemed like there was a lot of opinions. It was either very positive or very negative on him.
Yeah. And here's the thing about, and this is going to sound arrogant. This is what being a baseball guy you can pick up. What happened from 2018 to 2019? He moved from second base to third base.
Right.
Did you watch this kid play at third base much?
No.
Yohan Moncada is a third baseman. He's comfortable there. He's at home there. He hits better when he's playing there. I have every bit of confidence that Moncada rebounds fully this year. He said, and I quote, "I am fully recovered. I feel healthy. I can't wait to get out there and play the game." That's what you want to hear.
Yeah.
At 88, Moncada's a steal. All of these guys are. All 4 of these guys are. I won't talk about 10 through 12 because I don't feel that way about Chris Bryant. I don't feel that way about Moustakas, and I don't feel that way about Muncy. But that Devers, Suarez, Chapman, and Moncada, that's my target. I want 1, if not 2 of those guys on my team.
Fair enough. Sounds like we're into both. Hey, this is the most I think we've ever been in the same territory.
I tell you, it's funny. I love talking. This is my favorite time of year. We didn't even get to talk any college basketball. We'll have to do that next week.
Absolutely.
But I just felt like we're getting closer to that. We need to start talking about this baseball stuff. I think it's good to kind of bounce ideas off of each other as we go through this. So I hope everybody enjoyed this. Randall, did you have fun?
Oh, absolutely. I'm prepping for my draft and using you as a resource. Just don't tell nobody.
You got to cite me though.
Yeah. I'm just going to tell you, you've probably moved a couple of guys on my draft list tonight.
Well, and that's what it's all about. I tell everybody this all the time. I love talking about this because, I want everybody to come into the draft on the same page. To me, it's like playing chess. You don't play chess against someone who you're clearly better than, right? Let's talk about this. Let's establish like some of the, I'm willing to admit I'm wrong on a lot of stuff, but I think having these conversations, looking at data the way I do, I don't think many people do that in this game.
And I have to admit, I come at it differently. And especially in football, we've talked about it. I'm a feel guy. Right. I really try to feel things through. And I can tell you, but that at third base, I kind of came, except for Devers, my sweet spot is tier 2. And I had targeted, hey, I'd like to get 2 of these guys and look where I can get them. Because, most leagues, you're going to play a corner infielder. And I was just like, okay, if I spend this draft capital at first to come away with this exceptional first baseman, I might be able to steal a couple guys in, around 100 at third to fill a utility spot or a corner infield spot for me. So, yeah.
So we'll get to this later, but this will be our closing point. The reason why I like these guys in this 80 to 120 range, it allows you to free up capital to spend money on premium pitching.
Yeah.
Pitching is a premium this year. You have to spend your money there on the front end. If not, you're going to be behind.
Yeah.
So to me, why spend a first-round pick on Freddie Freeman or Manny Machado or Nolan Arenado or any of those guys, right? When you can go out and you get a Garrett Cole, or you can get a Justin Bieber, or you can get a Shane Bieber, you get a Trevor Bauer, right? You can get one of those elite pitchers and set yourself up from that pitching perspective right off the bat.
And be unique. Be unique.
Yeah.
I have a strategy when it comes to pitching that's different than everybody else. And I feel like every time I draft a position player, I need to go out and draft a pitcher. And this year, I've actually made a note for myself in the first 6 rounds. It's okay to come out with just 2 position players in the first 6 rounds. In years past, that would be a minimum of 3. So I'm with you. And people, the guys that are in my level, maybe sometimes the guys that are just getting back into it, they make the mistake of spending all that revenue and all that draft capital.
Wasting it.
Yeah, on some infielders or, for me, I'm going to tell you my draft strategy now. I want a high-value second baseman, a high-value shortstop, and I want a ton of pitching early. And that's going to be my draft. I'm not going to push it. And if somebody falls to you, you always take them. If you could get the 4th most valuable player at pick 10, you take him no matter. But I really would like to come out with a great middle infield and some great pitching this year.
I want stolen bases and home runs. Don't care where I get them. When I pick high, I want those 2, and I don't want to sacrifice average. That's what I'm looking at lately. Give me a high home run or a high stolen base guy that's going to give me a high average, and let me build from there.
I'll follow you.
All right, man.
All right, brother.
Have fun.
I'm going to go put a child down. She's sitting down here in the hallway looking at me with like, Daddy, are we going to bed? So
yep.
I'll talk to you later.
Let's do it again next week. Next week, we'll get back into some college basketball talk. We'll start ironing out some of this March Madness stuff. Of course, we'll talk some more baseball. We'll start talking about some middle infield stuff. And, of course, the football stuff's going to be ongoing. So
March 14th, the biggest bracket show ever coming to your network.
Can't wait. It's running up on us pretty quick, isn't it?
It is. It is. We got to get ready for it.
You know it. Any plugs?
Just that.
Okay.
Bracket Buster on Draft for the Upside, the D. Swain and B-Lo Show, Chappy's Fantasy Sports, the Marion Messenger. There's about 5 different sites going to have this show, but join us, and we're going to give some people people are going to make money off of us that night because you're going to win your bracket challenge by listening to us.
Yeah. Hard workers working hard, huh?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Chaps Fantasy Chat, Thursday nights at 8. OA, The Other Angle, Thursday nights at 10. Draft for Upside, iLogic Media. Thanks for joining us, guys. Let's do it again next weekend, Randall.
Yes, sir. We'll see you
guys.
then.
Take care.